Hello again everybody, hope you're all doing well. So in this video we're going to be looking at motorcycle rear wheel alignment and I'll also be showing you how you can check the alignment using very simple tools that you've more than likely got lying around in the garage or in the house. Now, just quickly we'll go over the 3 reasons why you want to do this. So reason number 1 is safety. If your rear wheel is not properly aligned, it's going to potentially adversely affect the handling of the bike, and of course anything that affects the handling of the motorcycle in a negative way can potentially cause a dangerous situation at some point. The next 2 reasons are about premature wear. So if you've got your wheel not tracking straight and true, your tyre is going to be scrubbing down the road rather than rolling, and that's going to cause uneven wear and more rapid wear of the tyre. And along similar lines, reason number 3, your chain and sprockets obviously being attached to the rear wheel the way they are. If your rear wheel is not properly aligned, neither will your chain and sprockets be, and again you're going to find that they're going to wear out faster. So it's mostly about safety, but it's also about making sure you get the most life out of your tyres and chains and sprockets and things like that. So how do we actually check this? Now, hopefully most of you will already know about checking the tension of your chain, and you'll know that when we find our chain is a bit too slack, we adjust it using these adjusters at the back here. And most of the time, or all the time rather, we adjust each side an equal amount so that we keep the wheel straight. Now, on Japanese bikes and quite a few other bikes, we are lucky enough to have these markings on the adjusters, which help us to make sure the wheel is still in line. And in theory, I say in theory, if you have your markings lined up on the same line both sides, the wheel should, as I say in theory, be in line. But there's 2 potential problems with this. The first is that not all motorcycles actually have this system which shows you where the wheel is alignment wise. Pretty much all Japanese bikes do, pretty much most bikes do, but there are a few exceptions. Off the top of my head, there are a couple of Harley Davidsons, for example, which don't have this system. So obviously, you know, if your bike does, great. If it doesn't, it's not a major issue. But the other thing is these aren't necessarily always the most accurate. Now on my bike they're actually really good, because the markings are actually on the swing arm itself, and then obviously you've got the lines on the adjusters, but the markings that you're aligning it up with are fixed in place because they're stamped onto the swing arm. Now my previous Suzuki, which was a GSX 600F, actually had the alignment markings on a kind of metal tab thing which moved around a little bit, so you know, there was a couple of millimeters of movement that it could be out either side, which doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously if you're trying to make sure that your wheel is dead straight, those couple of millimeters of adjustment or millimeters of potential well, it being out of adjustment basically, is a bit of a problem. So how can you check that your wheel is actually properly aligned? Well, the first method, and probably the easiest method, is with a tape measure. Now, I will quickly say now, this won't be possible for every bike, and I will show you another way of doing it in a minute, for those of you who can't do it this way. So, if like me, you're lucky enough to have a bike where you've got clear access to this here, this bolt, which is the swing arm bolt, this is the best reference point you can use. The reason for that is that it's guaranteed to be 90 degrees to the bike. So that and that is guaranteed 90 degrees because that bolt goes through the swing arm and attaches it to the bike. So if, like, as I say, my bike, you have access to this, all you need to do is grab yourself a tape measure, and what we're going to do is we're going to measure from the centre of this bolt here, like so, to the centre of that bolt there, which in my case is 56. Okay, and then real simple, all you do is go around the other side and do exactly the same thing. So from the center of that bolt to the center of that bolt on the other side, and hopefully if your wheel is in line, it should be exactly the same. Now I checked mine earlier and it is indeed 56 dead on from center bolt to center bolt on both sides. But what if you have a different style of motorcycle where you can't access this bolt either because of different positioning of the foot pegs, or maybe you've got a sports bike that's got more fairings around and things like that. Obviously, you know, you can remove fairings and things to get access if possible, but sometimes it's not possible, and sometimes it's a right pain in the backside. So what else can you do? Well, as I say, the ideal situation is measuring from this bolt to this bolt. That's ideal because we know that's 90 degrees, and we know that's, if the distance is the same between those on both sides, we're golden. But if you can't, another way of doing it is quite literally to, again, grab your tape measure and just do it the other way. So we can measure from the edge of this bolt to the edge of, in my case, I've got this cap thing here, which I know is tight against the swing on both sides. So if I take the tape measure and measure from the edge of the bolt to the edge of the inside edge of this, which in my case is, what's that, 2.5. Again, it should be the same both sides. Now another thing you can do, you don't have to, but if you happen to have one of these calipers, again, there's a number of ways you can just double check. So again, we could come in here and we could measure the distance between the inside edge of the bolt to the inside edge of the cap at the end there, which in my case, again, is giving me 2.5, which is exactly what I just measured before. And we can do the same on the other side. So there's various ways you can do it. A third method is to run a piece of string. If you manage to get your front wheel dead straight and run a piece of string between the two wheels on both sides, or if you've got a straight plank or something you can use on both sides, you can adjust your wheel that way, but I don't really recommend that method simply because there's just too much room for human error. It's much easier just to obviously check it with a tape measure or a caliper gauge or something like that. The most important thing is just to make sure the bike is in an upright position. So you want it either on its centre stand or, in my case, on a paddock stand because I don't have a centre stand. And as I say, so long as you can take measurements, ideally between these two bolts, but if not, at least between the end of, or wherever the end of your swing arm is and the edge of the bolt. As long as it's the same on both sides, you're fine. And as for one final little thing, just pick you up. You have to excuse the camera shake. This camera does not have image stabilization. Another thing you can do is just, as a last thing, take your chain cover off and just set your eyesight down the chain and just visually check that it's straight and not obviously off at an angle or something like that. But as I say, that's not a particularly accurate way of doing it. That's just a way of sort of confirming, if you like, once you've done the actual measurements, that the chain is indeed straight and you haven't gone wrong somewhere. So there we go, guys. As I say, it's a nice, simple, easy thing that you can check, but it is something that is important, and of course a lot of people tend to overlook, or maybe they just don't know. So hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, please do give it a like. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and go check out my other videos. And hopefully, it's starting to get a little bit warmer here now, so I'll hopefully be out on the bike in the next week or two and making some more videos out and about. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all again soon.